Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you a question that could shape your future for decades to come. What if the biggest financial mistake you could make in 2026 isn't what you buy, but where you buy it? In a world where everyone is rushing to plant roots, sign papers, and call it security, wisdom is not found in speed. Wisdom is found in discernment. We've been taught that owning a home is always a blessing, always a step forward, always a sign that we've made it. But faith doesn't mean following the crowd. Faith means hearing clearly, seeing beyond emotion, and choosing alignment over pressure. Not every open door is sent to elevate you, and not every opportunity is meant to be seized just because it looks good on the surface. Right now, the housing market is shifting. Policies are changing. Taxes are rising. Insurance costs are exploding. Entire states are moving in directions that silently drain wealth, peace, and long-term stability. And many people won't realize it until they're already locked into 30 years of stress. But you are not here by accident. You are here because something in you knows it's time to pause, to listen, and to move with wisdom instead of fear. This is not about panic. This is about preparation. This is about understanding that God's favor is not just about increase. It's about protection. Protection from bad timing. Protection from emotional decisions. Protection from environments that look promising but slowly wear you down financially, mentally, and spiritually. There are 5 states in 2026 that may look attractive, popular, and full of promise, yet carry hidden burdens that can sabotage your progress if you're not careful. And today is about opening your eyes before you sign your name. It's about empowering you to make choices that support your calling, your family, and your future. When you move with wisdom, you don't just build a house, you build stability. You build peace. You build a future that doesn't steal your sleep at night. And that kind of clarity, that kind of direction, is a blessing worth waiting for. Not every housing opportunity is aligned with your long-term purpose, and that truth challenges one of the strongest narratives we have been taught to believe. From a young age, many people are conditioned to think that buying a house is always the next right step, the ultimate sign of progress, stability, and success. But purpose is not measured by ownership alone. Purpose is measured by alignment. Alignment with timing, with direction, and with the future you are being prepared for. A house can be a blessing, but when it is chosen without wisdom, it can quietly become a burden that limits growth rather than supporting it. There are seasons in life when planting roots is wise, and there are seasons when mobility is protection. Long-term purpose requires the ability to move when opportunities arise, to adapt when the environment changes, and to respond when new doors open. Purchasing a home in the wrong place or at the wrong time can tie you to obligations that restrict flexibility. Mortgage pressure, rising property taxes, insurance hikes, and maintenance costs can drain emotional and financial energy that was meant to be invested in your calling, your family, or your personal growth. What looks like security on paper can slowly turn into stress in real life. Many housing opportunities appear attractive because they appeal to emotion. Beautiful designs, low introductory prices, and promises of future appreciation can create a sense of urgency that overrides discernment. But emotional decisions often ignore long-term consequences. A property may be affordable today, but unsustainable tomorrow, due to policy changes, economic shifts, or cost of living increases. When purpose is involved, short-term affordability is never enough. The question is not only whether you can buy the house, but whether the house supports who you are becoming and where your life is going. Alignment also involves understanding the environment surrounding the opportunity. A home does not exist in isolation. It exists within a state's laws, tax structure, insurance regulations, job market, and economic stability. When these systems are misaligned with financial growth and personal peace, even the most beautiful home can feel heavy. Long-term purpose thrives in environments that encourage progress rather than quietly penalize it. Ignoring these factors can result in working harder just to maintain the same lifestyle, leaving little room for advancement. There is also a spiritual dimension to alignment that is often overlooked. Purpose requires clarity, and clarity requires stillness. Rushed decisions driven by comparison or pressure rarely come from a place of peace. When people buy homes simply because others are doing it, they surrender discernment to social expectation. Purpose, however, is personal. What is right for one person may not be right for another. A house that fits someone else's journey may conflict with yours, especially if your future involves growth, transition, or expansion into new territory. Another overlooked aspect is how misaligned housing decisions affect mental and emotional health. Financial strain does not stay confined to bank accounts, it spills into relationships, sleep, and overall well-being. Constant worry about payments, repairs, or increasing costs can create a background level of stress that clouds decision making in other areas of life. Purpose demands focus, and focus is difficult to maintain when energy is consumed by survival rather than vision. When a home becomes a source of anxiety, it pulls attention away from creativity, faith, and forward momentum. Long-term purpose is not about settling too soon. It is about positioning wisely. Sometimes the most disciplined decision is to wait, to rent longer, or to choose a less popular path while gathering more information. Waiting is not failure. Waiting can be strategy. It allows time for markets to reveal their direction, for policies to take shape, and for personal goals to become clearer. Purpose unfolds over time, and decisions made in patience often carry more strength than those made in haste. True alignment means the home you choose supports your future rather than trapping you in your present. It means your financial commitments leave room for generosity, opportunity, and growth. It means your environment contributes to peace instead of draining it. When alignment is present, progress feels sustainable, not forced. When alignment is missing, even success can feel heavy, and the cost is often paid slowly, quietly, and over many years. Market shifts and state policies can quietly destroy wealth, often without immediate warning or dramatic headlines. Many people assume that once they purchase a home, its value and affordability will remain relatively stable, but the reality is far more complex. Real estate does not exist in a vacuum. It responds to economic cycles, legislative decisions, and long-term policy trends that most buyers never examine closely. When these forces change direction, the impact on homeowners can be slow, cumulative, and deeply damaging over time. One of the most underestimated risks comes from sudden or incremental changes in state-level policies, property tax increases, zoning laws, rent control expansions, and new development regulations can all reshape the financial landscape of a home investment. These changes rarely happen overnight. Instead, they are introduced gradually, often justified as temporary solutions or public benefits, while quietly increasing the cost of ownership. What once felt manageable can turn into a recurring financial drain, reducing disposable income and limiting the ability to build true wealth. Insurance markets provide another powerful example of how policy and market shifts can erode value. In certain states, natural disaster risks, regulatory constraints, or insurer withdrawals have caused premiums to skyrocket or coverage to become unavailable altogether. Homeowners are left paying significantly more for less protection, or worse, forced into state-backed insurance programs that offer minimal coverage at higher costs. These increases do not improve the home itself, they simply raise the cost of keeping it. Over time, this erodes equity, savings, and financial resilience. Market shifts also affect demand, and demand determines value. When state policies discourage business investment, limit development flexibility, or create uncertainty for employers, job growth slows or relocates elsewhere. As people leave in search of opportunity, housing demand weakens. Homes take longer to sell, prices stagnate, and equity growth stalls. Homeowners may find themselves unable to move without taking a loss, effectively trapped in a market that no longer supports appreciation. This kind of stagnation is not always obvious at first, but it compounds over years. Another quiet threat comes from cost of living inflation driven by policy decisions. Rising energy costs, transportation fees, utility regulations, and local taxes all affect household budgets. Even if mortgage payments remain fixed, the total cost of living can increase to the point where financial breathing room disappears. Wealth is not only about what you earn or what your home is worth. It is about what you are able to keep. When expenses rise faster than income, ownership becomes a liability rather than an asset. State policies can also influence investor behavior, which directly impacts homeowners. When regulations make it difficult or unprofitable for builders and investors to operate, housing supply becomes distorted. Shortages can lead to artificial price spikes followed by sharp corrections. On the other hand, overregulation can freeze development, preventing communities from adapting to population changes. In both scenarios, homeowners bear the risk while having little control over the underlying causes. Market shifts tend to punish those who assume stability without planning for change. Interest rate fluctuations, lending standards, and credit availability can all shift rapidly, affecting refinancing options and resale potential. A homeowner who planned to refinance or sell within a certain time frame may discover that market conditions no longer support that strategy. What once seemed like a straightforward financial plan becomes a long-term obligation with fewer exit options. Perhaps the most dangerous aspect of policy-driven wealth erosion is its subtlety. There is no single moment when everything goes wrong. Instead, costs rise slightly, rules tighten gradually, and market confidence slowly weakens. Homeowners adapt, adjust, and absorb the changes until the cumulative effect becomes impossible to ignore. By then, options are limited, and recovery requires far more effort than prevention would have. True financial wisdom recognizes that wealth is protected not only by purchasing assets, but by understanding the systems that govern them. Ignoring market signals and policy trends is not neutrality, it is exposure. When people buy homes without evaluating the long-term direction of a state's economic and regulatory environment, they unknowingly place their future in the hands of forces they do not control. Wealth that takes years to build can be diminished, not through reckless spending, but through well-intentioned decisions made without full awareness of how markets and policies shape outcomes. Over time, high taxes and insurance costs are warning signs, not blessings, even though they are often framed as the normal price of living in a desirable location. Many people accept these costs without question, believing they are simply part of owning property in a popular or growing area. But when taxes and insurance begin to rise faster than income, they stop being routine expenses and start becoming indicators of deeper structural problems. These costs rarely increase in isolation. They usually reflect policy decisions, environmental risks, or fiscal imbalances that place a growing burden on homeowners. Property taxes are one of the most overlooked threats to long-term affordability because they are not fixed. Unlike a mortgage payment that can be planned for, property taxes can rise annually based on assessments, budget shortfalls, or changes in local government priorities. A home that was affordable at purchase can become increasingly expensive to hold, even if its market value does not increase proportionally. Over time, homeowners may find themselves paying significantly more just to remain in the same place, without gaining additional benefits or services. Insurance costs follow a similar pattern, especially in states facing environmental risks, regulatory complexity, or insurer withdrawal. When insurance providers reduce coverage or exit a market entirely, premiums rise sharply for those who remain. Homeowners are forced to choose between inadequate protection or unaffordable policies. In some cases, insurance becomes a prerequisite for maintaining a mortgage, leaving owners with no real choice. These escalating costs do not enhance safety or stability, they simply reflect increased risk that has been transferred directly to the homeowner. What makes rising taxes and insurance particularly dangerous is their compounding effect. Each increase reduces disposable income, limits savings, and restricts financial flexibility. Money that could have been invested, donated, or used to improve quality of life is instead redirected toward maintaining basic ownership. Over years, this slow drain can significantly alter financial trajectories, especially for families on fixed or modest incomes. The wealth erosion happens quietly, masked by the assumption that ownership itself guarantees security. These costs also influence market behavior in ways that can further harm homeowners. As taxes and insurance rise, fewer buyers can afford to enter the market. Demand softens and resale values become harder to sustain. Sellers may be forced to lower prices or wait longer to find buyers willing to absorb the ongoing costs. This creates a cycle where ownership becomes less attractive, yet more expensive, reducing mobility and locking people into unfavorable conditions. There is also a psychological toll associated with constantly rising expenses. Financial stress does not exist in isolation. It affects decision-making, relationships, and overall well-being. When homeowners are perpetually bracing for the next tax hike or insurance renewal, peace of mind becomes elusive. A home should represent stability, but when its costs are unpredictable and escalating, it becomes a source of anxiety rather than comfort. In many cases, High taxes and insurance costs are signals of broader fiscal or environmental challenges within a state. Governments facing budget pressures may rely heavily on property taxes to fill gaps, while regions exposed to natural risks may struggle to maintain viable insurance markets. These issues are rarely resolved quickly, and homeowners bear the long-term consequences. Ignoring these signals is equivalent to ignoring warning lights on a dashboard. The absence of immediate failure does not mean the system is healthy. Another overlooked impact is how these costs affect future planning. Retirement projections, education savings, and long-term investments are all influenced by housing expenses. When taxes and insurance consume an increasing share of income, long-term goals must be adjusted downward. What was once a plan for growth becomes a strategy for maintenance. Over time, this shift can fundamentally change the trajectory of a household's financial future. Wise ownership requires looking beyond purchase price and interest rates to evaluate the sustainability of ongoing costs. A home that appears affordable today may not remain so if taxes and insurance continue to rise unchecked. These expenses should be evaluated not as fixed obligations, but as variables influenced by policy, risk, and economic conditions. Recognizing high taxes and insurance costs as warning signs allows buyers to make more informed decisions, protecting not only their finances, but their long-term peace and stability. Discernment is more powerful than urgency in major decisions, especially when those decisions carry long-term consequences that reach far beyond the moment of excitement. Urgency often disguises itself as opportunity, creating pressure to act quickly before something is lost. In the housing market, this pressure is amplified by headlines, social comparison, and the fear of missing out. People are told that prices will rise, inventory will disappear, and waiting will cost them more. Yet urgency rarely serves wisdom. It narrows perspective, shortens evaluation, and pushes individuals to prioritize speed over clarity. Discernment operates differently. It slows the process, asks deeper questions, and considers factors that urgency intentionally ignores. Where urgency focuses on what is available now, discernment evaluates whether what is available aligns with long-term goals, financial health, and personal peace. Major decisions made under pressure often overlook risks that only become visible after commitment. When a home is purchased in haste, the cost is not limited to money. It includes flexibility, emotional stability, and future options. Urgency thrives on external voices. Friends, family, agents, and media narratives all contribute to a sense that action must be immediate. While advice can be helpful, it can also distort judgment when it is driven by someone else's timeline or incentives. Discernment requires stepping away from the noise and assessing the decision from a place of internal clarity. It recognizes that what benefits one person or fits one season may not be appropriate for another. The ability to pause in a fast, moving environment is not weakness, it is strength. In major financial decisions, urgency often ignores the full cost of ownership. Buyers may focus on securing a property before prices rise without fully accounting for taxes, insurance, maintenance, and future market conditions. Discernment considers not just whether a purchase is possible, but whether it is sustainable. It examines best case and worst case scenarios, understanding that stability is built on preparation rather than optimism alone. There is also a spiritual dimension to discernment that urgency cannot replicate. Discernment is rooted in peace, not pressure. When a decision is aligned, it brings clarity rather than confusion, even if the path forward requires patience. Urgency, by contrast, often brings anxiety and restlessness, creating a constant need for reassurance. Decisions made in this state are more likely to be driven by fear than by wisdom, leading to outcomes that require ongoing effort just to maintain. Urgency can also create a false sense of scarcity. In reality, opportunities change form rather than disappear. Markets cycle, conditions shift, and new possibilities emerge. Discernment understands that missing one opportunity does not mean missing all opportunity. It allows individuals to wait for conditions that better support their long-term well-being. Acting too quickly can close doors that patience would have kept open. Another risk of urgency is its tendency to justify compromise. Buyers may overlook unfavorable terms, undesirable locations, or financial strain simply to avoid waiting. Discernment resists this impulse, recognizing that compromise in foundational decisions often leads to regret. A home chosen under pressure can become a constant reminder of a moment when fear outweighed clarity. Discernment also protects against emotional attachment, formed too early in the decision-making process. When people fall in love with a property before fully evaluating it, objectivity diminishes. Urgency feeds this attachment, encouraging quick commitment. Discernment maintains distance until all relevant factors are considered, allowing logic and foresight to guide the choice rather than emotion alone. In a culture that celebrates speed, choosing discernment requires confidence and self-trust. It means being willing to appear cautious in a world that rewards immediacy. Yet the outcomes of discernment often reveal themselves over time through reduced stress, greater flexibility, and stronger alignment with long-term goals. Major decisions shape daily life for years, and the cost of rushing is often paid long after the initial excitement fades. True wisdom recognizes that timing is as important as action. Discernment does not eliminate risk, but it reduces unnecessary exposure by ensuring decisions are made with full awareness rather than reactive urgency. When individuals choose discernment over speed, they position themselves not just to acquire assets, but to preserve peace, adaptability, and clarity in every season that follows. Wise timing protects peace, stability, and future generations in ways that impulsive decisions never can. Timing is often treated as a secondary consideration, yet it is one of the most powerful forces shaping outcomes. The same decision made at the wrong time can create years of strain, while that same decision made at the right time can feel almost effortless. In matters as significant as homeownership, timing determines whether an asset becomes a foundation or a weight carried forward. Peace is one of the first things affected when timing is ignored. When a home is purchased too early, without adequate preparation or clarity, the responsibility of ownership can overwhelm daily life. Financial pressure, unexpected expenses, and market uncertainty introduce stress that quietly erodes emotional well-being. Wise timing allows space for confidence, ensuring that decisions are made from a position of readiness rather than urgency. When the timing is right, ownership supports peace instead of competing with it. Stability is closely tied to timing because stability depends on predictability. Markets, policies, and personal circumstances all shift over time. Buying into an unstable environment during a volatile period increases exposure to forces beyond individual control. Wise timing involves observing trends, understanding cycles, and recognizing when conditions favor sustainability rather than speculation. It acknowledges that stability is not created by ownership alone, but by entering ownership when systems are more likely to support long-term balance. Financial stability, in particular, benefits from patience. Waiting for the right time can mean entering the market with stronger savings, better credit, or more favorable terms. These factors compound over years, reducing vulnerability to economic shocks. When timing is rushed, households are more likely to stretch budgets, leaving little margin for error. Wise timing creates buffers that absorb change, allowing families to adapt rather than react when conditions shift. The impact of timing extends beyond the present generation. Decisions made today shape the opportunities available to those who come after. A home purchased under financial strain can limit resources for education, healthcare, or future investments. Conversely, a home acquired at the right time can become a source of security and support for years to come. Wise timing considers not only immediate benefits, but long-term implications for family legacy and intergenerational stability. There is also a moral responsibility embedded in timing. Major financial commitments influence the choices and freedoms of others within a household. When timing is misjudged, family members may carry the weight of that decision through reduced options or increased stress. Wise timing respects the interconnected nature of these decisions, ensuring that progress for one does not become pressure for another. Timing is not passive. It is an active process of observation and preparation. It involves monitoring economic indicators, understanding policy directions, and aligning personal goals with external conditions. This process requires discipline because waiting can feel uncomfortable in a culture that rewards immediacy. Yet discipline in timing often leads to outcomes that feel sustainable rather than strained. Faith and timing are deeply connected. Wise timing reflects trust that opportunities unfold in seasons, not moments. It resists the urge to force outcomes before conditions are ready. This trust fosters patience, allowing decisions to be made with clarity rather than anxiety. When timing aligns, actions feel supported rather than resisted, and progress unfolds with fewer obstacles. Impulsive timing often prioritizes short-term gratification over long-term security. It responds to trends, emotions, or external pressure without fully considering future consequences. Wise timing, by contrast, evaluates how a decision will feel not just in the first year, but in the 5th, 10th, and 20th. It asks whether the decision will still support peace and stability as circumstances evolve. Ultimately, wise timing serves as a form of protection. It guards against overextension, regret, and unnecessary struggle. It ensures that major decisions enhance life rather than complicate it. By honoring timing, individuals create space for growth, resilience, and continuity, allowing stability to extend beyond the present moment and quietly shape a stronger future for those who follow. This is not about fear, and it is not about avoiding progress. It is about choosing wisdom over pressure and clarity over noise. Every major decision carries a voice, and the question is not how loud that voice is, but whether it brings peace. When decisions are made with discernment, patience, and wise timing, They do more than protect finances. They protect purpose, relationships, and future generations. You are not behind because you waited. You are not missing out because you paused. Sometimes the greatest advantage is the ability to see clearly while others rush. When you move with wisdom, you position yourself to build not just a house, but a life that is stable, sustainable, and aligned. Let every step forward be guided by understanding, every commitment be rooted in peace, and every choice reflect the future you are truly meant to walk into.